For legions of upgrade-starved Microsoft fans, the Lumia 830 is as close as it gets to exciting in the opening months of 2015. But does this so-called mid-range flagship deserve its ambitious title? Let's find out. I'm Michael Fisher with Pocketnow, and this is our Lumia 830 video review. The Lumia 830 might be a full 100 digits below Windows Phone's true flagship, the 930, but the step down in prestige also brings a step down in size. At 8.5mm and 150 grams, the Lumia 830 is a very palm-friendly, very pocketable little Windows phone. The sides are cool aluminum, and the back is a polycarbonate panel available in several colors and adorned with the old Nokia logo, one of the last uses of the legacy branding you'll see on a Windows phone. Popping it off reveals a removable battery and a microSD expansion slot, increasingly rare customizations these days, and welcome news for those who need more power or more storage. Up front, the display is nice and big at 5 inches, protected by Gorilla Glass 3 that almost seems to pool at the corners. On the whole, it's a very nice piece of hardware, especially for the mid-range. Dig a little deeper, and the disappointments start to show. First, the display is IPS instead of AMOLED. Now, some might call this an upside and not a disadvantage, but the lack of true blacks and high saturation is a real bummer on Windows Phone, where colorful live tiles floating on an expanse of pure darkness is much better served by AMOLED. Also, the polarization filter that Nokia uses means the screen starts getting pretty milky viewed off-center, and modes like glanced screen aren't nearly as dramatic in darker conditions. Finally, the screen is 720p instead of Full HD. It doesn't bother us much, but eagle-eyed buyers might pick up some pixelization here and there. The rest of the hardware is a mixed bag. The speakerphone's rear-mounted position is disappointing, if predictable, and the top-mounted USB port is just plain awkward if you're using the phone when plugged in. Fortunately, there's built-in wireless charging here, so you don't need to bother with wires if you have a Qi-compatible charging pad like the DT903 here, reviewed in another video. And the changeable covers offer a modicum of customizability, even if they do give under the finger a bit more than what we're used to feeling from a Lumia. The 830 runs Windows Phone 8.1 GDR1 with the Lumia Denim update, which is fantastic, except it's not. See, while this is technically denim, it's not totally denim, or at least not denim enough to support one of the biggest upgrades to the camera experience, Lumia Camera 5. Whether this is a symptom of carrier delays or Microsoft being sluggish with the release, it's very frustrating. And more frustrating is Windows Phone's perennial pain point, the ecosystem. January 2015 saw two major blows in the United States as two of America's largest banks pulled their apps for Windows Phone, citing lack of users. This comes on the heels of Microsoft releasing Office and Outlook apps for Android and iOS, titles that in some ways eclipse their Windows Phone counterparts. So the app gap is still a concern if you're any kind of power user. In every other respect, Microsoft's smartphone platform has only gotten better since we reviewed the 8.1 release last year, with the most visible addition since being the Microsoft Health app. During the review period, it worked with my Microsoft Band to keep me up to speed on notifications while logging everything from my steps to my sleep. Yeah, it's still an ugly accessory, but that's not the 830's fault. Major third-party titles like Spotify have also seen extensive upgrades, while high-visibility apps from other circles, like NPR One, have popped up too. And the star of the Windows Phone show is still the animated, information-packed start screen. Being able to pin pretty much anything to home base and check its information at a glance is still one of this platform's key advantages, along with a visual design that's still fresher and cleaner than most other platforms. That said, it's pretty easy to trip up the 830 with more pressing demands on the hardware. This is just a Snapdragon 400 under the hood, backed up by a single gig of RAM, and Windows Phone 8.1 isn't always as silky smooth under those limitations as earlier versions of the OS. Animations occasionally trip up, and restoring apps from standby gets old really fast. A good example is switching from streaming Spotify to shooting a video. By the time you're done with the camera, Spotify's already been dumped from memory, and you need to relaunch it to resume listening. The hardware limitations make having a conversation in an app like Facebook Messenger more frustrating too, thanks to the constant need to reload upon restore. Maxing out the Snapdragon with a game like Asphalt 8, you can see the hardware struggling to keep up at points. On lighter impact games, everything holds together nicely, The 830 didn't have any trouble with Jetpack Joyride or Rise of Glory. And of course, Trivia Crack and Words with Friends ran just fine, though they weren't without their own bugs. Voice calling is also win some, lose some. Audio quality was fine on my end, but inbound callers said they didn't have any trouble hearing background sounds from where I was either. And the speakerphone is plenty loud, but again, its rear firing position makes it ill-suited for doing much but listening to music. Fortunately, reception seemed on point in cellular, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, especially the latter. Even when paired to a Nokia charging plate, an LG headset, and a Microsoft Band at the same time, I had almost no connection troubles. In the mid-range and high-end, a Lumia phone lives or dies by its camera. And on the spec sheet, Nokia imbued the 830 with a shooter to be proud of. It's a 10-megapixel PureView sensor mated to a 6-element lens, and yes, it's optically stabilized. When the Lumia 830 finally gets its true denim update, so it can run Lumia Camera 5, it's going to be much more impressive. Possibly one of the best mid-range shooters out there. For now, its output is just fine. You don't get the outrageous digital zoom, the crazy oversampling, or the shallow depth of field effects of higher-end Lumias, but color reproduction is much better here than it was on the Lumia 1020, as we show in our comparison going up tomorrow. Also, low-light performance is nice, thanks to OIS, and if you do need to fire up the LED flash, you'll be glad it's there, as long as your subject isn't moving too much. You'll also be happy to know the 830 is fully compatible with the Lumia Selfie app that allows self-portraits to be taken with the main shooter, since the front-facing camera is nothing special, especially in low-light situations.
That's fun. Y'all gonna be driving around the world because y'all don't even know where y'all going.
Video output tops out at 1080p and 30 FPS, but it gets a boost on the audio side from the 3-microphone rich recording setup. And as long as you don't have the camera going the whole time, you should be able to get a day of moderate to heavy use out of a full charge on the 2200 mAh battery, even while using Bluetooth accessories rather heavily. And thanks to the removable power pack, you can always spend a little money on a spare battery to get you through long trips without a charger. So what we have in the Lumia 830 is a starkly, almost painfully average smartphone. There's just nothing truly exemplary about this product. In that sense, it's much more mid-range than Flagship, and anyone seeking the latter will be much better served by the Lumia 930. Now, in the United States, the 930 is exclusive to Verizon in the form of the Lumia icon, and that leaves the 830 as the only sub-6-inch Windows phone even near the high end on AT&T. So if what you're looking for is the most modern Windows phone, well, the 830 sort of becomes your default choice. But it's not cheap enough to be a budget phone, and it's not good enough to be a premium one. When it comes to Windows Phone, it seems you can have a mid-range phone or a flagship, but you can't have both. For more on the Lumia 830, see our comparisons with the 1020 and 930 above, and be sure to subscribe, follow, and visit Pocketnow everywhere else on the internet at the links in the description below. Till next time, this has been Michael Fisher with Pocketnow, Captain Two Phones on Twitter, reminding you that denim doesn't always mean denim, unless you're talking Levi's. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.